Leave the past in the past. If you're going to live in the past, okay, you are never, ever going to live in the present or in the future. There's a quote I heard, and it went something like this: that don't live in the past, just remember it. The past will never, ever give you any kind of memories if you're living in it. It is a continuation of all that was involved in the past. The thing is about what happens that when we don't, or I should say, we're not in a position to just remember. When you remember something, it is a memory will only last an X amount of time in the brain, and an X amount of time will be given attention to it, and with it will be an emotion attached to it. For example, I grew up in the 70s, and I love that time. I mean, it was so many people I've read that said the same thing. It was probably the best time to grow up in the history of the time frame that people have. Some people would say the 50s and so on. I can't say the 40s because that was when the depression was going on. The 70s was beautiful, even getting on to the late 70s, right? But life got complicated, and I'm now 63, and we're talking 2026. Life started to get really complicated probably after the year 2000 in my life, and also in the lives of others. Times were changing, technology was coming into play. So the social activity of what we would consider normal became normalized by us in front of screens and television, or we our attention was on the screen because with so many more options to live out other people's lives on a screen instead of living a quality and a meaningful life in the time of the 70s. But what I used to do, the way I would cope with what I remember that I was attached to it with emotions and what made me feel good was I would have my beers. I didn't have a whole lot, but it was enough to get me to play the music from the past and to go back there. And it took years to realize that although I was looking for a time machine, which is in the part of drinking and listening to music, it never really brought me back there because there didn't exist anymore. So what I ended up doing, I wasn't really remembering it. I kept going back to it. And I remember there was one day, this is about 5 months or so months ago, I went to visit where I used to live, and it was his apartment we used to live in, and I had some of the best memories there. But I remember I sat and I looked up and everything. I indulged myself for a good hour of remembering the feelings of all that was going on the street when we used to look down. The sun was always shining. Everything was so different. And I tried to block out what was present tense with the people that were coming and going, and everything was so different. It was so it was so disheartening to see how times have changed. But for that hour, I went and I visited the past and I remembered it. I chose to live in it to a certain point. But something I discovered with remembering and living in the past is that when I got in the car and I was driving away and I looked back and just remembering, I realized I had to let go. But right at that point, there's a song by Boston came on, and it went like more than a feeling, right? I woke up this morning and I heard a song, turn on the music to start my day. And the song was more that is called More Than a Feeling. And I realized, yes, the time that I lived in and the memories of it was more than just a feeling. It was very special. And there's nothing wrong in remembering, having memories where it holds a special place that will never ever go away. But when you go to live in the past, you, in a lot of ways, you can't take your body and you can't take a time machine and go back there. It is gone. And even at 63, I had to grow up. And I woke up and I realized that no, I can't. I can't. The past is gone. It's gone. It will never return. But the memory never fades. And I'd just like to leave you with that. That the past can never be lived in again. It can be lived by remembering it. And it is memories are a beautiful part of our existence. Just memories. And it's more than a feeling. But even though it's just memories, the memories are enough that we can say, you know what? I have good memories. And it keeps you in a really good vibration, a good place. But you gotta know that the future can also have good memories and everywhere you are right now. Because it takes a special person to remember something very good than it does. People who aren't special don't hold dear memories deeply. They let it go very quickly. And it just tells a lot about you as a person. It says that you have meaning, you have thoughtfulness, and you know how to hold with value what was once valuable. So you all have an inspiring day and do like and subscribe. And just remember this, you can never live in the past, but you can remember it. Have a good day.